Hello, in this lecture we will take a look at Chapter 2 of our QuickBooks workbook, where we're going to be preparing a balance sheet using QuickBooks Account. So once again, I'm going to let you read through the non-grayed out gray areas, and that will give you the scenario. We're going to skip down to the gray area where we actually have the activities. So the first activity says to create a standard balance sheet. Now, in order to do this, of course, we are going to be using the same Larry Landscaping file we had open in the past. Therefore, you can open this a few different ways. I saved the data file on the desktop here. Same file we used from the past. It is in this case, the data files. And we could double click on this to open it in that way. That should generate the program and start the program to run the file. We can also just double click on the shortcut to QuickBooks in this fashion. And that may open to the prior workbook that we were on, the prior QuickBooks file that we were using, or it may prompt us with a screen that we can then open from the QuickBooks screen. Okay, my screen opened up to this window here. This shows us some of the companies we've been using prior. It also has the create new company, open or restore, or open a sample file. Again, I tend to like to use the drop down menu over here because even if a company is open, or if I'm in a different type of window within QuickBooks, we'll always have this drop down, and then I generally select the open or restore. In this case, we're going to open a file. We're not going to restore the file, and we're going to go next because we already restored it. If you need to restore it, you can take a look at the instructions to do so. But if you already worked Chapter 1, you probably have it restored somewhere, so we're just going to open it. Mine happens to be on the desktop, and I'm going to scroll down to my QuickBooks folder. I put it into the data files, and I'm going to double click the Larry Landscaping, the green icon, and that should open it up. Now that we are up and running, we have the sample Larry Landscaping and Garden Supply. We're in 2014, and we can verify that up there. If you do not have the open window over here, I do suggest using the open window. You can view that by going to the View tab, drop down at the top, and having this window checked off on the open window. Only open window we have open at this time being the Home tab. So let's go back to the instructions and see what we have. These are a little larger. So number 2 says click from the icon bar, click the company financial on the left. If it is not already selected, click the standard tab at the top of the report center window. In the upper right hand corner of the report center window, click the list icon. Place your mouse over the 3 icons shown in the list, scroll down, and then double click the balance sheet under the heading balance sheet and net worth. Click the customer report button. On the button bar, click the header footer tab, uncheck date prepared, time prepared, report basis, and then click OK. Alright, let's see if we can remember to do all that. We're going to go to the reports. So reports, we're going to go over here into the report center. So that'll open up the report center. If it's not full screen such as this, you can check this box here to get the full screen. The default is generally going to be the company and financial tab on the left hand side and the standard tab on the top, rather than one of these other tabs. So if you're in an unusual situation, probably you're on some other tab here and you need to go back to the standard tab. And then notice that they want us to get to the list format. We're currently in this kind of icon where we can see the type of form that is here. If we go to these 3 bars up in the upper right hand side, we can make it a list format, which is a little bit more condensed that we can then see. Note that the income statement is on top. QuickBooks calls the income statement the profit and loss for some reason, and therefore we're going to scroll down and look at the next main financial report, which should be the balance sheet. So if you scroll down a bit, you see income and expenses, keep going. And then we finally see balance sheet and net worth. So you got to scroll down a bit to find that, and we want the balance sheet standard, I believe. Let's double check that. Yeah, we want the balance sheet standard. So I'm going to go ahead and run the balance sheet standard. Now, all the time they're going to try to help us to customize the layout of this report, meaning, and one of the things they want us to do is get rid of the time, the date, and the basis, being this is the accrual basis. The way that we do that is we're going to go to Customize Report up on the upper left hand side. I'm going to drag this bar over here so that we can then see it, and we can have display options, filter, header, and fonts options here. I'm going to go to the header and footer option, and they wanted us to deselect the date prepared, time, and report basis, like so. When I hit OK, those three things should then go away. And then hit OK. They tell us to hit OK. Okay, so I hit OK, and they go away. All right, and now they have disappeared as shown in the figure. Scroll down the balance sheet. Notice that this report shows the balance in each account with subtotals for assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. Unlike the standard accounting practice, QuickBooks account displays net income for the year to date as part of the owner's equity. So what they're saying, that the balance sheet reports mean that total assets equal total liabilities and equity. So here's the total liabilities, here's the equity, that plus that equals this. They are also telling us that within the equity account, they are breaking out net income to show us what net income is for that time period, which standard accounting would have that included in the retained earnings. So they're giving us that breakout and showing us the net income portion for the time period being displayed. And note that what is the time period being displayed? In this case, it's the fiscal year. Most of the time when we look at the balance sheet, it's as of a point in time. So we don't know the time period because it's a point in time. And this would indicate, in order to have that number correct, we would need to know, is it for a month? Is it for a year? That number, what should it tie out to? The income statement, which QuickBooks calls the profit and loss. Number 4, do not close the window. All right, so we're going to keep that open. You're going to pause and read through the non-gray areas, and we're going to skip to the gray area, which has another objective of to create a comparative balance sheet. So now we're going to make a comparative balance sheet, and it says to change the column text box from the total only to month. Your window should look like figure 2.2. So I'm going to go back to the window. Instead of having the total only as of the end of this time period, we're going to have the scroll down here, and we want to go to the month. So what that does then is it breaks us out as of a point in time, as of the 3 months that are covered in this report, being October, November, and December. So now we have the balance sheet for those 3 points in time, and it ties out to this report here. We could check a couple numbers and just say, yeah, that looks like the same numbers. So that is good. And then number 2 says, scroll down and across this sheet. Note that this report is similar to the standard report, except that the columns compare the amounts by month for the 3-month period as compared to just one date. And then it says we're going to close that report. Before I close it, I'm going to save it just in case we need to turn this report in. So anytime I make a report, I'm just going to basically save that in case it is part of the homework and practice the saving process. The best way, the optimal way for me, is to save it to an Excel sheet. So I'm going to create a new worksheet like so, and a new window that should then pop up. I'm going to create a new worksheet, and I'm going to put it in a new workbook. Since this is a new workbook, the next one I create, I'll put in the existing workbook that I'm going to create this time. And I'm going to say export, and it should open Excel automatically. All right, so there we have it. I'm going to make it large over here. We have the tab down here. I'm going to click over in this page layout so that I can then see the header. So there's the header. Then I'm going to click back to the normal view. Note that it put these split things in there. I'm going to go to the view tab, and I'm going to unsplit that. Then I'm going to go back to this tab so that I can see the title. Double click on the sheet down here and rename it to the balance sheet. And you could put the date 12/15, maybe .15, and there we have that. Then I'm going to save this to our file because this may need to be uploaded to Moodle. So I'm going to go to Save As. I'm going to go to my computer, and then we're going to browse. I'm going to save it onto the desktop. And note that this is basically half the battle to save these reports. We want to save it in a way that we could find it and upload it. So I'm going to put it into the QuickBooks file. I'm going to put it into week 1. I'm going to make a new file here because I'm going to call this Chapter 2. I'm going to make a new file, Chapter 2, and we'll open this up, and then I'll name it here Chapter 2 Reports, or something like that, and we will then save that there. We could close it, we could keep it open. I'm going to go ahead and close it, and if you don't have Excel, or that doesn't work, that export doesn't work, you could also go to File, you can save it as a PDF, Or if that doesn't work in some other reports, you can print it to a PDF, save it as a PDF, and I'm going to print report, and then change the printer to the PDF. So if we did that, we'd go to print it, and then we could find it. I'm going to go, it's in the desktop, and we're going down to our QuickBooks file. We're going into week 1, we're going into chapter 2, and this is the balance sheet 12.15. And of course, if we wanted to double check if that happened, if we saved it like it should be saved, it's going to be in the QuickBooks, it's going to be in the week 1, it's going to be in chapter 2, and there's our 2 items there, the Excel and the Adobe. I do prefer the Excel because you can then put it new reports on a same workbook with new worksheets, which will be easier to upload. All right, let's see what else we have here. We're going to move down to page 30, where you're going to pause and read the non-graded areas. We're going to skip to the gray area, which has an objective of to create a summary balance sheet report. Number 1, the report center. Click the company and financial if it is not already selected, and then double-click the balance summary. This is not clicking the reports menu item, it's clicking the company financial from the report center. Remove the date prepared, time prepared, and report pages as you did in the previous balance sheet. So now we're going to go back here, going to go to the reports up here. We are going to go to the company and financial again, and then I'm going to scroll down to the balance sheet area. We're in the profit and loss, 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 and then there's the balance sheet and net worth down here. We see the standard. At this time, we want to move